Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the chair of the Institute for Emerging Issues National Advisory Board, Jack Cecil.
Good afternoon, everyone. You know the old adage that you don't want to stand between someone in lunch or someone in dinner? Well, I have the worst of all the opportunities. I'm in the middle of dinner for lunch for all of you, but welcome and thank you. It's my distinct honor. I'm the chair of the National Advisory Board of the Institute of Emerging Issues, and I want to issue you a warm welcome. It's been a wonderful morning. I know there's a large group here in the auditorium. We also have a number of people watching online, and then UNC TV on your new North Carolina channel. Thank you for broadcasting this today. I just want to almost take a deep breath and a sigh of relief. There's been so much information going around this morning. My head's about to bust wide open, but it's really, really wonderful, good conversation, intellectually stimulating one, and I think what's the best part about it, we have been engaging people from all across the state, both public servants and politicians and the state government for 31 years, as you saw Governor Hunt this morning. We've always had the support from the highest levels of government, and we know that our Governor McCrory was in California last night, but he wanted to bring greetings to this forum, and I'll let you watch a short 2.5-minute video.
Hi, I'm Governor Pat McCrory. I'm actually taping this on the Friday before the Super Bowl because right now, as you watch this tape, I'm coming back on a plane on Monday afternoon from hopefully is a victorious win by the Carolina Panthers. I don't know at this time, only you know. But I do want to thank you for discussing innovative ways to prepare our state for the future. With more than 10 million residents, North Carolina is now the 9th largest state in the United States of America and growing at a rate of 281 people a day. In addition, technology and innovation continues to constantly transform our lives and North Carolina's economy. This growth and innovation poses challenges and also great opportunities for our state. Now, to beat the competition, whether it's South Carolina or Asia, our administration is committed to ensuring our workforce development skills adapt to the marketplace and ensure our citizens are prepared with the skills needed for both today and the future. Now, we have brought education and business leaders together to make sure that they're actually working together as one team. We have also expanded digital learning for our students as part of our effort to connect every classroom in North Carolina to Wi-Fi. And our community colleges are now open in the summer for job training. That's common sense. And we have also placed North Carolina NC Works career coaches in our high schools. And we have also championed the Connect NC bond that will now go before voters in March to make sure our science labs and engineering schools in our universities and our welding shops and nursing classes in our community colleges are prepared to train students for the 21st century skills. You know, the theme of this year's Emerging Issue Forum, FutureWork, understands the need to adapt to jobs of the future. I share your commitment to preparing the next generation of North Carolina leaders and thank you all for all you're doing to make our state a better place. Have a great forum, and I look forward to your feedback, and may God bless the great state of North Carolina, and I hope as you're watching this, the Carolina Panthers are the Super Bowl champions. If not, you're probably getting a good laugh at my expense at this time. Either way, North Carolina is the best state in the United States of America, and we ought to be proud of it, but never take it for granted. We've got a lot of work to do. Thank you very much.
Well, his crystal ball needed to be a little bit better than the outcome, unfortunately, last night, but I couldn't do anything about that either. As you know, IEIs prides itself in bringing a diverse group of individuals and people together for many, many years. And before we go any further with the next part of the program, I'd like to invite all members of elected officials from the local, state, and federal level to please stand so we can identify you and welcome you to the Issues Forum today. This afternoon, I'm going to be joined here on the stage with two key state leaders to have a conversation about North Carolina's future. One member is of Governor Pat McCrory's Cabinet Secretary of Commerce, John Skvarla, who's leading our economic and workforce development at a critical time in the state's history, and also Chancellor Mary Grant, Chancellor from UNCA out in Asheville. And if you would welcome Chancellor Grant and John Skvarla at this time, please. We're not going to have a fireside chat. We're going to have a luncheon side chat. So but really, it's all around some information that we read collectively. All of us did. The World Economic Forum in Geneva, Switzerland. They had a report, the Future Jobs Report, and it talks about many of the things that we've discussed here this morning: disruption in employment levels, skill sets, recruitment patterns, and how industries are collaborating not only locally but globally at the same time. And so when we read the report, we thought, wow, this really ties in nicely with the FutureWork discussion that we've had today. People have talked about a fourth industrial revolution, the changes that are going on, the way people work, and what's going to happen in the next 5 years. Concurrently, there's a technological revolution, there's a broader sort of social, economic, geopolitical, and demographic developments. We've heard a little bit about these themes this morning. But it also, you can look at it as a glass half full, and there's an awful lot of opportunities that we can have public-private collaborative opportunities and partnerships amongst other industrial partnerships. There's big challenges, so we want to talk about here in North Carolina, are we prepared? What are we doing that works? What isn't working? And so we have two really great intellectual people here with us today. John Skvarla not only brings a perspective from government, but a strong legal and business background. And Mary Grant is the Chancellor of the state's only public liberal arts institution. So let me put this in a little bit of context for you. Technology disruptions are changing the skill sets, both current and future jobs. Technology is shortening the shelf life of many skills. For example, we heard about earlier today, if I'm an accountant graduating in 2013, I'm already having to go back to school to regain valuable information to keep up with the technological changes. It's already shifting in industry, and if I'm not careful, I'll be outdone by Intuit or another TurboTax type software. So let's look forward 5 years, and from an industry perspective and from an educational perspective, how are we already experiencing skills gap, and what is the next sort of generational occupation we be thinking about? So as the pace of change accelerates, what are the potential impacts for industry at large and in education?
Well, I look at the lens, I look at the world through the lens of the liberal arts, and I'm privileged to lead the Public Liberal Arts University for the state of North Carolina. And when I think about the work that we do to ready our graduates for the changing world, it is about that liberal education. It's the freeing education. It's the skill set to say, I have to go deeper, I have to go further, I have to be a lifelong learner. When you think about things like the management consultant Peter Drucker used to say, that in order for us to continue to evolve, we need to be pursuing lifelong education. And that's what we're doing in the liberal arts. It's not about, and we get into these false dichotomies about it's the sciences or the liberal arts, and it's not. It has to be both. And the pace of change is so fast. If we are not preparing our students, if we're not opening up access for people to be able to adapt with change, to ask the big questions, we will fall behind. And so when I think about the work that we're doing, where we're giving students the tools right from the beginning to match the ability to explore, to create, to curiosity, and all of those skills of communication, Jack, the liberal arts, I think is exactly the kind of preparation that we need, paired with the deep skills for someone to go deep in a field of knowledge that helps support robust industrial sectors.
John, what are you seeing across the state, various industry sectors, high tech, low tech?
Well, I hope I'm not too big a contrarian, but I think change brings great opportunity. I am very bullish on what has been called the fourth industrial revolution, because I think it's going to create massive, massive positive opportunity for the country and our state. And you know, Wayne Gretzky's the guy who said he scored so many goals in hockey because he didn't skate to the puck, he skated to where he knew the puck was going to be. And that's what we have to do, and I think that's what Mary touched on, is that we have to adapt ourselves, but we're certainly capable of adapting ourselves. We talked before we came out here about medical students. You know, once upon a time you considered medical students to be scientists. Well, there's been a great shift in medical students to have an incorporation of the whole liberal arts curriculum into those students that are accepted into medical school. Because bedside manner and patient care goes hand in hand with a strong liberal arts and scientific background. But we're capable of adapting. And we're seeing these things happening now. Is there a skills gap? Yeah, there's a skills gap emerging, but we're gonna rise to the occasion.
And we talk a lot about the skills gap being this notion of soft skills versus hard skills. And soft skills are sometimes lumped into those skills of communication, understanding, awareness. I consider those to be the hard skills that we need to have in order for someone to be successful. And we shouldn't be afraid of this change. We need to be ready for it and prepared, and I think that we're doing that.
And even in my industry of real estate development, you think of the old days of a land survey and a civil engineer. It was all, you know, take your days and days, and now you have GIS. So we're far more efficient in what we do. It allows us to do better, higher quality jobs and pay attention to, you know, many of the zoning and the environmental laws that you could never have done with manual labor. So there's a skills gap, but you see the people graduating, the students graduating from college and have the experience, which really has accelerated our industry. I think probably doing much better quality jobs and quality work than we have ever done in the past. So
Absolutely.
I think there's I'm like you, John. There is an opportunity. Don't be afraid of the change.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Embrace it.
Is there a specific educational focus that we can take? Is there something indigenous that we can put our finger on a little bit?
Absolutely, and there's a great commercial for the liberal arts. So, you know, when I think about, you know, Peter Hart Associates every couple of years does a survey of major employers, and they ask employers what are they looking for, and 93% of those that respond said that they're looking for people who can work in teams, who can understand the globally changing world, who can communicate clearly, write proficiently, and not be afraid of doing the deep analysis. And when I think about what we do at UNC Asheville and other schools that prepare students in the liberal arts, we take students and we put them right away into team-based learning. So around the table, we might have students who are working on solving problems of mobility, and we'll bring together an art student, a computer science student, an engineering student, and we'll say, have at it. Here's a problem we're trying to solve. We had a group of students who were working on mobility issues, and they came up with an idea to create a cane that would be both aesthetically beautiful, functional, and be able to use 3D printing as part of it. So when you take students who are exploring a problem from different lenses, and you pair them with a faculty who are going to push them and challenge them and have them not be afraid of getting the wrong answer, that's an accessible education. And what we have to do is make that kind of education available to the many and not to the few. And that's where the public higher ed system comes in, because that is indeed the liberating education, and it's exciting to be around. It's truly exciting.
Well, and it also, Mary, there's a part of education that has to be considered lifelong learning.
Yes.
Because if you learned a skill today in your first 4 years of college, if you're not taught to think critically or liberally, not in a political sense, but liberally exercising your brain, your technology will leave you behind. So you have to go through lifelong learning or reskilling or retraining. I think that's infinitely important, and you can do it at a community college. You can go through the course, or I can come back and audit a course at UNC or any other campus to help me further my career.
That's right.
And as you know, if you think about how some of the industries that North Carolina has built its legacy on is biotechnology. That skill, that's changing all the time. And now you're talking about the genomics. We talked earlier today about artificial intelligence and machines actually learning. So it's taking some of it frees us up to do more creative things. And robotics, I think what we're all sort of zeroing in on is that don't be afraid of a robot taking my job. Look at a way a robot can do a more menial job, but allows me to do something more creative and productive to flex the productivity curve, because that's how we're going to win. It was labor, capital, and productivity. So I think those are all important parts of education. And I think the other side of it is, how do we work as an industry or a company with the government and also with the universities. And you have to look at public-private partnerships, because I don't think industry can solve that problem on its own. I don't think government can. And I don't think a university can. So by working collaboratively together, I think that's one of the models going forward. There's a really good example in Asheville. It's called the Collider. We're talking about extracting the data from the National Climatic Data Center, all the weather information in the country, and how can you translate that into new businesses that, from not a consulting, but really understanding the weather climate, so we can then look forward to building office buildings or doing more environmental stewardship with retention ponds and stuff like that. But that's a combination with UNCA, the private sector and the public sector, and a national government entity as well.
Well, and there's national conversations happening around what's the relationship between the liberal arts and big data. And there was a meeting of the Business Higher Education Forum talking about these very matters. And of course there's a relationship between the liberal arts and big data. You know, they may not be specifically crunching the numbers, but how do you understand the analysis and the public policy implications, the world and the problem sets to which that big data apply? So there's absolutely a role, and we get into these conflicted conversations which are not necessary and not always helpful to moving forward.
That's right. That's right.
You know, Mary, you talk about liberal education too, liberal arts education. When I was a freshman in college, I was an economics major. And I'll never forget having a conversation with one of the most brilliant theology professors I'd ever known. And I said, it was a French Christian brother, and I said, why aren't we studying stuff we can use, you know, like put our teeth into? And he said, what we're teaching you how to do is expand your mind.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Is
That's right.
you get exposure to all of this variety.
That's right.
Just learn how to make your mind work, because when it comes time to getting down to the nitty-gritty, like the example you gave, that you'll be able to contribute to that. And it really is the essence, and I've never forgotten that.
That's right, and that was such a wise thing, because when you think about economists solving or studying social problems, if we don't understand the history of a region, or the culture, or the arts, or the language, or the things that brought them to a point of concern or despair, we're not going to get the solutions right. So we have to know what kind of questions to ask as well, in order to be able to put the best answers on the table. And that's what the liberal education is all about.
And our approaches might change.
That's right.
You know,
Exactly.
maybe it's more of an apprenticeship, internship
Yes.
approach.
Yes.
Maybe it won't be the traditional model. But we're accommodating all that right now, and I can assure you the state of North Carolina, from a workforce development standpoint, is deeply involved in that. And
Well, in the system of higher ed in North Carolina, we have 17 campuses, which in the public arena, and several incredibly strong private institutions and a robust community college sector. So we have the ingredients here for success and the diversity among our campuses and our institution. And that kind of learning takes place in classrooms across the state. That hands-on undergraduate research, group problem solving, that's what makes the big difference.
And breaking down those silos is remarkable. What we can accomplish if we're working all in the same direction
Yes.
with the same team. And I need to brag a little bit. Last night I just got notice that North Carolina was designated by Site Selection Magazine as the #1 workforce development program and operations in the entire Atlantic region.
That's great.
So at least we are recognizing
That's
those
great.
needs.
That's great. That's great. That's great. And if I could brag a little bit here, since I'm up here, and is that University of North Carolina Asheville was just ranked #1 in the country for making an impact. So right here in our own backyard, we have these incredible resources that will help us be successful in this time of transition that we're in.
Absolutely.
Tremendous.
You have one for us.
I have one for these guys. They've been grilling me right in the middle here. So when you think about the rapid changes that we're in, Mr. Secretary Jack, and the pressures that are put upon education all the time to respond, to fix the problems, you know, we sometimes don't know where to start. But we have in the midst rich traditions. We have a liberal arts institution. We have creativity across the sector. What is it that you would like to see? What is it that we can be doing and thinking about differently and adding to the way we do our work every day to make our best difference?
Well, we need to be good listeners. I mean, at the end of the day, we are a needs-driven organization, and we need to respond to the needs that employers have. We need to be entrepreneurially focused. You know, somebody said, who's the fastest runner in the world? I think that gentleman's in the audience. I know him well. Who's the fastest runner? Who's the fastest runner in North? We don't know. We need to make opportunity available to all the runners to be able to see how fast or how far they can go, whether that's at the university level, the community college level, at the high school level, or the middle school level. We need to be good listeners, and we need to basically be adaptive to the needs of our customer, which is the entrepreneur and the employer.
And how fast can we adapt to that change, the need, is the real, I think, the real key to this whole thing. Because one of the software apps that we were shown this morning, to me, it very simply put, it was connecting the workers with the jobs and jobs with the workers. And I'm sitting there, okay, how can I, as an employer in Asheville, find out who's graduating from UNCA, and how may I be able to employ one of them, and what sort of internship programs? Can we take someone in your freshman year, sophomore year, and bring them into the company and give them an internship? That opens their eyes. It opens us to the quality of the students that you have there. So I think connecting those dots together, that public-private partnership that, as John said, need to listen. And we heard earlier this morning about diversity. I think the real discussion is not diversity, but inclusion. And how can the private sector learn from the public sector that, and you said it earlier, that public education is improving the democracy. It affords everyone the opportunity. So you ought to open your doors to everyone who's qualified from whatever 100 counties that said North Carolina, because at the end of the day, you're producing better students that will help a company market to a larger population if they believe and follow the sort of inclusionary model rather than not. Because if we're moving to a population that's going to be the majority minority,
That's right.
and there are going to be more women in the workforce, I as an employer need to make sure that I'm understanding that, and that's a big role for education.
Well, it's a big role, and the issue of access is critical, and we need to be helping everyone see that a liberal arts education is within their reach, that it's not exclusive, it's not elitist. It is the education that will help you do just what you said, Mr. Secretary, about pairing knowledge and understanding a situation, a context. And when I look at that Davos report, the World Economic Forum report, they talked about emotional intelligence, they talked about the ability to communicate clearly, leaders who can adapt to changing situations, and that's what we do. That's our sweet spot. And it is the education that levels the playing field and creates the best opportunity. And my favorite magazine cover that I saw in the last several months was Forbes magazine, or Fortune, and there was a fellow standing on the front, and it said, the hot new degree in Silicon Valley is the liberal arts. And I said, now we're catching on. I mean, it's just, so that pairing of innovation, problem solving in a deep way with the broadest set of concerns is really what we need to address this fourth wave and not be afraid of it.
Well, our opportunity is limited only by our mind's eye.
That's right.
It's as broad and as great and as much fun as we can envision. And we have to have those kind of thinking skills.
That's right.
In order to get there.
That's right. Absolutely.
You must see that when companies take an interest. If we cite magazine #1 in the country, you must see that and hear that when companies are starting to look at North Carolina. Is that?
We are very, very blessed. Most states struggle and beg to get on the list. We're on everybody's list. North Carolina is recognized internationally, from mountains to sea, for our educational opportunities, for the quality of life we have. We are very, very blessed to be in North Carolina right now.
So, go ahead.
And I just want to, as one of the chancellors of this system, it is a great system. It is a system that is prized throughout the country, and the diversity across the state is really one of the things that sets us apart competitively. And it's wonderful to know that that is seen and valued because we do it together in partnership.
And we have fun.
That's right. We have to have fun.
We all have fun, don't we?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So just thinking it through, just sort of wrapping up, sort of concluding comments here during lunch. I think we all agree that the technical skills, they're coming, it's moving fast. We need to re-educate ourselves through lifelong learning, but there's also a coupling of a very specific scientific sort of STEM skill, because you have to have a liberal arts, you have to be able to talk about the learning of the scientific knowledge that you have. If you can't communicate it, it's
right.
basically worthless.
That's right.
Is that right?
That's right. And we get into, I may have mentioned this before, this false dichotomy between liberal arts and sciences. They have always been part and parcel of the same. When liberal arts was, the founding 7 principles of a liberal arts education right in the heart of it was arithmetic, geometry, astronomy. So this is a modern convergence where we argue about it, and we're arguing about the wrong things. We need both, not either or, it is both. We need the scientific inquiry, the problem solving, the deep skills of analysis. We need all of it, Jack. We need all of it, not one or the other.
So I would dare say that if you have a technical skill, but you also have the liberal arts degree coupled with it, that you probably at the end of the day, you earn more money, the job will become more sticky, and it's less subject to be eliminated because you have these skills. I mean, I'm looking at you, a trained lawyer, but look at the different business careers you're in, and now you're a public servant. I mean, you're a classic example.
That's right. I listened to that professor in my freshman year.
That's right, that's right.
Well, I'd like to thank Chancellor Grant and Secretary Skvarla for joining us during this luncheon conversation. I hope it's been entertaining for all of you, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, thank you, John. I'm going to do double duty after hosting a luncheon conversation. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our next speaker, Maurice Smith. Maurice is the president and CEO of the local government federal credit union, who's been a great supporter of IEI. As a matter of fact, his firm has made a commitment for 5 years to support our youth engagement programming, one of which is the IEI's Local Government Federal Credit Union Emerging Issues High School Prize for Innovation. This past year, we've engaged over 1,200 people in the summer who've come through our IEI Commons in the Hunt Library, and over 200 leaders from youth engagement organizations at a summit this past November. We're very excited about this relationship with the Local Government Federal Credit Union, and I hope that you'll give a warm welcome to Mr. Maurice Smith. Maurice?
Thank you very much. Sounds perfect. Jack, thank you for that warm introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I am pleased to be here at this exciting forum to announce the grand prize winner in the Local Government Federal Credit Union Emerging Issues High School Prize for Innovation competition. Now, at the Local Government Federal Credit Union, we are deeply committed to communities in North Carolina, which makes this collaboration with IEI a natural fit for us. The 2016 High School Prize for Innovation challenged teams of high school students to create innovative proposals to successfully encourage high school age students, volunteerism of high school students for those who, particularly those who are at risk of dropping out. Now, there's a few reasons why this topic was chosen. Encouraging volunteerism is important to everyone. And for someone who works for a credit union that has an all-volunteer board of directors, it's especially important to me. Students who are volunteers are more likely to graduate and succeed in future careers. Volunteerism builds stronger and more vibrant communities with healthier local economies. Today, 5.6 million young adults between the ages of 16 and 24 in the U.S. are neither in school nor working, and that is not good for any of us. We received many proposals from teams of students across the state. I want to thank our judges for their time and attention and dedication in narrowing this list to 3 finalists. The name of the judges are available on the Forum app in your program book. Would our judges please stand? Can't tell by the lights, but there may be some standing. So we thank our judges for their services. Now, before I announce the winner, I want to recognize all 3 teams, each of which include an adult mentor. Our finalists are Burke Middle College High School in Morganton, and by the way, all our finalists are assembled over here to the right, anxiously awaiting the announcement. Wake STEM Early College High School in Raleigh, and Green Central High School in Snow Hill. Thank you. Information about their projects is available on the app and also in your program book. Let's give these wonderful North Carolina leader innovators a big round of applause for all this together. That's right. Now, last week, thousands of you voted for your favorite proposal from among our 3 finalists. It is now my pleasure to announce the $5,000 grand prize winner. The winning team is, wait for it. All right, that's enough suspense. Burke Middle College High School in Morganton.
Isn't that exciting to see the creative minds of high school students and what they're able to accomplish, and thank you, Maurice, for your generous contribution. Next, I have the pleasure of introducing 2 other young, extraordinary people who are already leading their way as tech entrepreneurs. You'll hear from Jaylen Bledsoe in a second, but first let me introduce Ryan O'Donnell to the stage. Ryan.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Raleigh. You know, I'm a product of what I like to call the entrepreneurship pipeline here in North Carolina. Was a graduate of NC State, where I founded a company that I want to talk with you about for just a few minutes called EmployUs. You know, I founded the company when I was at NC State because I had the fortune to partner with somebody who used to be the CEO of Manpower. Now, if anyone knows Manpower, they're a pretty large recruiting company, and we decided to build an app to capitalize on what we already know is happening with companies like Uber and Airbnb. We saw that recruiting was an industry that's broken, so we decided to address it with a free mobile hiring app that connects employers and job seekers through trusted referrals. So we built this. Like many startups here in Raleigh, we were fortunate to go through an accelerator program sponsored by Citrix and Red Hat in the city of Raleigh. And where we're at today is essentially a mobile app that rewards anyone for the network they've built. So any of you can go on to EmployUs.com. You can get early access to our app. You can view jobs at employers near you, recommend your friends for positions at companies like fast-growing startups, like Automated Insights that we heard from today, all the way up to large employers like Citrix. And whenever someone who you know gets hired, you earn a referral bonus anywhere from $500 to $10,000. Now, if you look at the recruiting industry overall, and we're talking about the future of work and the impact of automation, what's really important to know is that the recruiting industry of what I like to say yesterday will not be able to keep up with the pace of innovation for the really future world of work. So at EmployUs, we've built a mobile app that essentially allows anyone to get rewarded for the network they've built, and the results are pretty great. You know, employers we can reduce their dependency on staffing agencies and those unreliable job boards, cutting their recruiting costs by as much as 90%. But what's really the most important is what we already know about the best source of talent, our referrals. Well, we're helping companies hire more referrals. And in order to do that, we've just simply built a mobile app that powers it. So we like to say that, Uber is one of the largest transportation companies in the world without any cars. Airbnb is one of the largest hospitality companies in the world without any hotels. Well, EmployUs is poised here in Raleigh, a little homegrown company, to really build on that and be one of the world's largest recruiting companies without any recruiters. I think it's a very good topic to focus on and kind of how we're looking at automation affecting jobs. But really here for EmployUs, it's all about allowing anyone in this audience and really crowdsourcing recruiting so that if there's anyone that you know who's looking for a job, you can get rewarded connecting them with their next gig. Thank you very much. That's EmployUs. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome entrepreneur and tech prodigy Jaylen Bledsoe.
We got problems on that mic. Have him go to the podium.
No mic. Hold on. How about now? Perfect. Good afternoon. Okay, I understand you guys just finished eating lunch, but I need some more energy in here. Good afternoon. Nope, okay. So here's the thing. I'm 17 years old, speak on stages all around the country to majority high school college students. There's not many college students in here, or high school students. So I need everyone in here to make some more noise and say good afternoon with me. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Perfect. Round of applause to yourselves. I'm Jaylen Bledsoe. Today, I'm 17 years old. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Jaylen Bledsoe Global Group. Day to day, I consult celebrities and Fortune 500 companies on digital strategy and brand development. Who's ever heard of the Ford Motor Company? Okay, so they're one of my clients. What about Steve Harvey? They didn't give me any note cards for a reason. But with them, I help them understand how best to take their brands, utilizing the internet, utilizing technology, to help their consumers, their clients, and potential customers understand their brand better, to create relationships. That's where I am today. 17 years ago, was nowhere near here. My parents had me at the age of 16 years old. Single-parent household for 13 years. Never expected to have spoken to 65,000 students at the age of 16. I never expected to employ 150 people at the age of 13. Never expected to speak at the White House at the age of 17. It was not a part of the plan. It's not what I expected. But luckily, I had something called technology. At a very young age where I learned to utilize it, starting at the age of 8. By 9, I was being taught word processing. By 10, I was doing video editing. By 11, I was doing music production in school. After that, I learned the power of technology. I learned how powerful it was, but most importantly, I learned that I could make it even more powerful by learning what it meant. So instead of learning how to use a tablet, I learned how do I program on a tablet. So at the age of 11, I went to Miami, visiting my grandmother, and this is when Borders was closing down. I bought about 10 books on programming, taught myself 7 languages in 4 weeks over the summer. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, Ruby's on Rails, Visual Basic, C++, and C#. Out of books. And at this point, this is not something that I'm telling everyone to go teach their kids how to do. Trust me, it was not easy. Everyone can't learn 7 languages in a 4-week period. But what's most important out of that is what I call the exposure piece. Being exposed to technology beyond Twitter, beyond Facebook, but how to build a Twitter, how to build a Facebook is really critical. Especially in an age where everyone has access to a computer, where 80% of the country does. Whether it's in school or at home, or in some form of a very, very cheap piece of electronic. So teaching myself to program, teaching myself to code, I began to start my first company, which was developing websites in 6th grade. In 6th grade, I began to do websites for free because my websites sucked. Then after I began to get feedback, they started getting a little bit better because when someone goes off on you, you don't have a choice. And at that point, I began making money for these websites, starting off at $10 an hour. I don't know about you, but at 6th grade, $10 an hour, I was doing like 10-hour projects on purpose. Sometimes they would hit 15. And then after that, I began to get better, to develop this skill, and they were paying me $20 an hour, $30 an hour. And by the time I was in 7th grade, the middle of 7th grade year, I was making $100 an hour on projects. It's crazy. I still could not remember how excited I was. I couldn't fathom what had just happened. Because the crazy thing about that, from the money piece, I saw struggle every day. I saw a mom struggling to pay her rent. Saw a single parent mom who wasn't even 22 yet, 23 yet, struggling to pay her rent. And I made a promise at a very young age that I would never be there again. And luckily, I was able to start at a very young very young age. And the unfortunate piece was, in kindergarten, I told myself I was going to be the first black president. And, well, you know the result. So the next step was become the president of my own company. And at 7th grade, I realized if I'm making $100 an hour, I have something that other people don't have, a skill. I have something that someone else needs, what someone else wants. And the key part of that is, how do we begin to teach the younger generation skills that everyone else needs? But not in a way that we teach everyone the same programming language, because what happens is everyone learns the language and no one pays for it. Or we tell everyone, you know what, we're not going to have enough programmers in the next 10 years, so we teach everyone to be programmers, and in 10 years, there's more than enough, and there's another area lacking. So a big part of this journey that I've been on, a big part of this process is teaching students, first being me, what computers were, understanding what they could do, and understanding every piece of it, programming, the building of it, hardware, every part of this expensive machine. And then understanding how to make money off of it, which is the best part. So 7th grade year, started my first company, a businessman's IT solution. Very long name. You can tell it was created by a 12-year-old kid. Started it for $7 online as a sole proprietorship. Went to the bank to deposit money into this new business account, or to get an account. And I've always had facial hair. I've always looked older than what I really was. People think I'm my stepmom's husband. It happens. I'm there for an hour and a half, and he says, well, you know what? We'd love to have your business here. Give me your ID. Does my middle school ID count? And ever so lightly kicked me out of his office, and at that point, I had to reevaluate how I was going to start this business. So what I did, I went online, understanding what a computer was, understanding how to use the internet, understanding what the power of the internet was, and I Googled St. Louis's best business attorney. I call it the first one. I was bold. You guys didn't catch that. Call it the first one on Google. And told him, hey, I'm 12 years old, I have an idea for a business. Can you help me out? Can you assist me? But by the way, I can't afford you. Just get that out here right now. He says, well, come to my office. I'll help you out. And to this day, I have not paid a dime in legal services. Thank God. But the most important piece of that, throughout this journey, I met with him every Saturday for 4 hours a Saturday for an entire year, planning this business. And he told me, he said, because you have the internet, you can do business in places where you couldn't have done it 10, 15 years ago. So that first set me up was, I can go employ someone in India. Perfect, I did it. But the second part of that piece of advice he gave me, he sent me a comic strip, and it had a dog on it. And the dog was typing on a computer, doing business. And it said, because you have the internet, you can do business with people who wouldn't have done it with you before because they don't know who you are. So I was able to use the internet to start a business, to have clients who didn't even live in St. Louis, Missouri, who trusted in me because they saw the work. They saw a work ethic. They saw a quality that developed over a year of people yelling at me because their website sucked. And at that point, that's where the business grew. Being able to have employees in other places who didn't know who I was, who didn't know my age. I could have employees who are contractors, tax purposes, who didn't live in St. Louis, but worked in other places and had great skill. So I was able to understand that the computer was not just for my personal use to play on social media, but importantly, to find people who could help me get to be on my journey to my dream, to my success. Whether it be clients, whether it be employees. And most importantly, out of all of that, the internet is where my story began to grow and capture attention. So jumping forward a few years, story went viral, 500,000 shares in an hour, every news station calling me to share my story. And in that process, just 2 years ago, I was working with Walgreens as a spokesperson. Had a young man who was 15 years old. I asked him what his plans were in life. African-American young man, and he told me he wanted to be a drug dealer. Just listen to that. He was 15 years old. His dream career in life was to be a drug dealer. And I learned because the key piece of his story, he had not been exposed to anything else outside of that. He'd been moving home to home every 6 months since he was 2 years old because his mom put him up for adoption. So consistently, all he could see, what was right in front of his face. And it's all that he believed he could do. Not knowing that drug dealers are some intelligent people. Distribution, marketing, employment, all that stuff. If I could hire one as a branding consultant, I would do it. But that would be illegal. So I took this young man under my wing, and I gave him access to a computer. And with that, he was able to see what could be done despite his story. I didn't have to just tell him what he could do. He utilized his computer to look at every opportunity that exists. I didn't teach him to code. Taught him how to use the internet. That was the first thing. Now, who here can say that they know, there's no one that they know under the age of 40 who does not know how to use the internet? Does anyone know anyone under 40 who can't use the internet? I see one hand, 2 hands. That's what we think. But there are people who are around you who have never touched the computer, who have never had a piece of technology to understand how to use it. Can you believe that? I'll take responses now. Can you believe that? So because of this, some people aren't exposed to what they could really do. They aren't exposed to the opportunities that are in front of them. They aren't exposed to job opportunities, both that they can create on their own and ones that they can find. The biggest employer in this country per capita is not Walmart. It's small businesses. people who employ themselves are employed less than 1,000 people. And that may not be small to some people, but it's small compared to a Walmart. So teaching him how to use the computer, he can now go out, do research, learn how to program, learn how to sell online, most importantly. So I taught him how to use a computer, taught him how to sell on an online marketplace. Last year, I did a workshop with about 15,000 students last year, teaching them the same concept. And every one of them now can go online, start a business, and make money out of their bedroom. Not because I gave them money, not because I gave them capital resources, because I gave them a computer and I taught them how to use it. Because if we don't teach them how to use it properly, Facebook is where they live. Well, not Facebook. My grandma's on Facebook now. Twitter. And they use it wrongly. So if I can give them a device, teach them how to use the device for the better of their situation, they can now use that to make money, use that to grow. And that's necessary. And I'll be quite honest, quite frank with you. Everyone's not going to learn how to take a computer and program. Honestly, they don't need to. But if they can understand how to use the computer to benefit what they like, if it's fashion, how do I sell my fashion online? If it's art, how do I sell my art online? How do I use computers to better my experience with my art business? How do I tell my story utilizing the internet? How do I connect with people around the world who have similar experiences, who had a similar upcoming, and have fulfilled their dreams utilizing the internet? How do I build a computer? How do I work for someone who has a computer company and work in sales? That's not a tech. Because people have to understand, who thinks Google is all engineers? Who understands that it's a lot of salespeople? Who understand that it's a lot of marketing people? So in this world of technology, it's teaching them how to use technology so they understand it, and they can now apply their hobby, their skill set, and work with computers, work with technology, work with tech companies to expand their life. By exposure, by teaching, but most importantly, by guiding them and helping them understand what can be done with it. Does that make sense? And I know I get invited to a lot of conferences, and they didn't say it here, but they always say, you know what? Tell them to teach their kids about STEM and tell them to teach them how to code. Let's start STEM schools everywhere. It's not the key. The key is exposure, education on how to use it, and guiding them on the right way to use it to expand their career path, even if it's not just learning how to program. I had a guy who designed shirts, taught him how to sell them online, mass-produced out of California. He made $25,000 in a 2-month period off of shirt designs. But he didn't know how to code. He applied his skill set of design, utilizing computers to expand his opportunity to employ himself via the internet. So technology is key to everyone, but teach them how to use it. Teach them how to use it properly, and that's the way we can expand youth participation in the technology environment. As the last speaker said, Uber is the largest taxi company, and they have no vehicles. So they have designers, they have developers, and a whole lot of salespeople who have helped that grow. Thank you.
We started this morning noting that this conversation was in large part about our next generation. And we went deep really quickly, and as Dambisa said, it could have begun to feel just a little bit depressing. But the truth is, this conversation is probably way more scary for those of you who are out there in my generation than it is for the generation behind us. So with this lunch program, we wanted to accomplish two things. We wanted to bring the energy level up just a bit, and we wanted to do that by showing you young people who were making the future of work for them. I want to ask you to do a huge favor for me. For our 3 high school teams, already focusing on the question of not just how they make the future of work for them, but for their peers, and in particular, their peers most likely to drop out of high school. And for young people like Jaylen Bledsoe all over this country who are just working it out, can you stand to your feet and give the next generation of entrepreneurs a round of applause? You don't even have to sit back down because I'm about to give you a 10-minute break. Stretch your feet, get some coffee, check your phone, go to the restroom. Just promise to be back here at 2 o'clock sharp. Thank you.